r/AskReddit, what was the dumbest thing you've ever been asked by a customer? I used to work at Enterprise Rent a Car. We'll pick you up. I went to pick up a customer. Worth noting, she was renting a car for a weekend getaway. Called her when I got to her apt, and she came downstairs and had this conversation. Lady, okay, I'll follow you back to the office. Me, confused, I'm here to pick you up and drive you back to the office. Lady, what am I supposed to do with my car? Me, were you planning on leaving your car at a lot over the weekend? Lady, no. Me, more confused, why are you going to follow me in your car? I can drive you back to the office, finish the paperwork, and you can take the rental car from there. Lady, not grasping the concept, well, how are you going to get back? Me, I'll drive us both, in this rental car, back to the office, where we can do the paperwork, and you can take the rental car from there. That way, your personal car is still at your apt. And when you return the car on Monday, you can drive the rental car back to us. We'll close out the paperwork, and we'll give you a ride home. Sound like a plan? Lady, that doesn't make sense. You're making this way too difficult. I'll just follow you in my car. Me, thinking the customer is always right. Okay. We get back to the office. I finish the paperwork, still astonished she qualified to rent a car, and hand her the keys to the car. Lady, okay, how do I get my car back to my apt? Me, lady, can you drive my car back to my apt? Me, I'm not authorized to drive your car. You're welcome to leave it here on the lot over the weekend if you want. Lady, okay, can you drive the rental car and follow me back to my house so I can drop off my car? Me, this is what I was trying to do when I picked you up. There was no need to take two cars. Lady, I'd like to speak to your manager. I used to work at the Up store in high school. Our last pickup was at 7 o'clock and we closed at 8 p.m. Since we had private information and people's personal mailboxes in the store, security was a big deal. It was 8:30. Our tills were counted down, the alarm was set, our copiers, fax machine, and computers were shut down. Our lights were off, and we had closed and locked a ginormous red gate that separated the entrance from the rest of the store. Some woman ran up to the door, and like some demon in a horror movie, she hurled herself against the glass and screeched like a banshee. Keep in mind, we are very obviously closed with a sign saying we are closed, no lights on, and a giant red gate drawn down over the store. She began pounding on the glass and frantically yelling at us. My coworker worried something was wrong, like maybe she was being chased and needed help. He carefully opened the door just a crack to ask what was wrong. She immediately tried to wedge her hands and head in the crack and asked to yell open. We informed her that we obviously weren't. Her logic was, well, you opened the door so now you have to help me. She began wailing and crying that she had to mail a package. We explained that even if we were open, our last pickup was an hour and a half ago and we couldn't even mail it until tomorrow. She protested and protested, and we eventually got the door shut and locked. So we just stood there awkwardly in the dark, hoping she would leave. She kept pounding on the glass and saying, I know you're open. As we debated what to do and if we should call the cops, this lady pulled out her cell phone and called the cops herself. The cops arrived. We explained the situation, and the woman accused us of lying, despite the sign on the door saying we closed an hour ago at this point. Then, in front of the officer and on security camera, the woman launched herself at my coworker and hit him in the face. She immediately jumped back and began fake crying that he had assaulted her. We were dumbfounded. She ended up getting arrested, and my coworker pressed charges. So the stupidest question I got was, are you open? Do people just sort of temporarily lose all sanity for short periods? How else do people like this survive most of their life? No way they can be that stupid the whole time. Context: I was 16 during this. I work at Chick-fil-A, and I'm taking orders as you do. Guy walks up and asks, aren't you supposed to be in school? I look down at the clock and see it's 6 p.m. I look at him confused and say, no, it's 6 p.m. He asks again. I say the same thing again. Then he yells, all right, duck you, and leaves. I used to work in a pet store. One night a woman came in and said she had ordered a puppy off the internet and he would be arriving in the next few days. She had never owned a pet and asked several dumb questions, but the one that I'll always remember is, do puppies need water? I feel so sorry for this dog. It's probably dead. When I worked in a call center for home phone service, I had a guy call and angrily ask why we were still charging him for his phone service since he had unplugged his phone from the wall a month ago. I work at a hotel. This reminds me of a guy who reserved a room for 2 weeks. Had the do not disturb sign on the door the whole stay, pretty common for longer stays. A couple weeks later I get a call from the guest absolutely furious that we charged him for a 2-week stay when he only stayed at our hotel for 2 days. I ask him who he spoke to at checkout, thinking maybe one of our employees made a mistake and just didn't properly check him out of the system for some reason. Long story short, he didn't notify anyone that he was checking out, just left. I had to explain to him that if you have a room reserved for a length of time and leave earlier than you had registered for, then you actually have to let the staff know. Even if the do not disturb sign hadn't been on the door the whole time, we are still not just going to guess that a guest checked out and rent their room to another person. He tried filing a chargeback for the remainder of the stay, but did not get his money refunded. As this was midsummer, we were turning people away daily due to being sold out, and that room sat empty because he expected us to psychically know that he left. I also work at a hotel. I haven't had this one, but I have had a lot of, why wasn't my room cleaned today? You had a do not disturb sign on your door. We put a card under the door explaining how to request late service. I meant don't disturb me, not don't clean it. I've also had, thanks for cleaning my room, but you didn't take your tip. My pleasure, sir. Thank you for taking care of the room. But I didn't see a tip. I left it on the bathroom counter under the soap dish. What thing intensifies? I did see the money while cleaning, but I'm not just going to take $5 off the counter in the bathroom 99.999% of the time. That's not a tip and you've just stolen. I appreciate the tip. Tipping your housekeepers is appreciated by not required. I don't vary my service on the tip. But who leaves it in the bathroom? For me to take it, it has to be on the bed, with a note, or if the guest is Japanese, $1 per person, left on the bedside table closest to where they slept. Almost 100% of our Japanese guests do this. I suspect it's in a guidebook somewhere. Not necessarily a dumb question, Peresi, but by far the most memorable dumb customer encounter. Years ago I worked for an Audi dealership as a greeter/shuttle driver, and one blissfully quiet afternoon, a middle-aged woman in a beige A6 pulled into the drive. Here's how the exchange went down. Me, good afternoon. How can I help you today? This light came on. She points to the check engine light with concern in her voice. Me, yes. That's the check engine light. Interrupting me. No. It's this one. The cell was the only light on at this point in time. Me, yes. That's the check engine light. Well, what does it mean? Me, there are literally thousands of different things that can turn that light on, but if you go into the office there, one of our service advisors can plug in a little computer and they'll tell you what's wrong. Scoffs condescendingly, so you don't know what it means. Me, ma'am, I think they can help you better than I. A woman came to the checkout and handed me a bag of mozzarella. She asked me what the ingredients were and if there were any chemicals in it. I turned the bag around and started to read the ingredients out to her. She grabbed the bag out of my hand, angrily said I could have done that myself, and stormed off. I used to work in a phone shop. Had someone come in asking why their phone wasn't working properly. It was visibly scorched and melty. I asked why it looked that way. They said it came up with an error message saying it had been too cold. Not an error message I had heard of before, but I know phones can bring up errors for being too hot, so who knows, and so they had put it under the grill to heat it up. The grill. Their first point of call was to cook it. I said that's why their phone wasn't working, and no, it was not covered under the guarantee. Many years ago I worked at Home Depot. One time I had a customer come up and ask me how to access the parking lot that's on the roof. I told him that we didn't have a parking lot on the roof. He didn't believe me, got super pissed off, and stormed out of the store to look for the access to the rooftop parking lot. ___. Another time I had a customer looking for a replacement cartridge for a faucet that he didn't have with him. If you don't know, there's literally hundreds of different types of cartridges. Anyway, I asked him what make and model of faucet he had, and he responded with, "You're the one that works in the plumbing department. You tell me." I told him that there's absolutely no way I could know what type of faucet he had in his home. The guy labeled me as racist and then stormed off. Wow, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching, mate. Smash that like button and subscribe for more daily content.